Imagine this. You wake to the hum of a device already vibrating on your nightstand. Before your eyes fully open, your fingers curl around it, thumb swiping to dissolve the lock screen. Weather, news headlines, calendar notifications, emails flagged. Urgent. Social media updates from faces you haven't seen in years. You absorb it all in 90 seconds, your pulse syncing to the rhythm of infinite scroll. By the time your feet touch the floor, you've already constructed a mental map of the day, a fragile lattice of meetings, routines, and expected outcomes. You tell yourself this is control, but then the crack in the facade, a missed train. A vague text from a lover, a news alert about an economic downturn. Your throat tightens. Your mind races, drafting contingency plans for disasters that haven't happened. You check your bank account, then the weather app again, then your lover's Instagram stories. You refresh, as if the act itself could bend reality into something legible, something safe. By noon, you've consumed more information than a medieval scholar did in a lifetime, yet you feel emptier, sharper at the edges, like a glass vibrating at a frequency only you can hear. Here lies the paradox. You are starving in a feast of certainty. Every click, every scroll, every obsessive replay of conversations, they're not about knowledge, they're about control. The modern world has weaponized your deepest neurological instinct, the craving for predictability. Our ancestors stared into the darkness, inventing gods and myths to explain storms. You stare into algorithms, begging them to tell you exactly how to live, who to love, what to fear. But the more answers you gorge on, the hungrier you become. Why? Consider the last time you truly didn't know, not the performative uncertainty of "I'm not sure what to eat," but the gut-churning void of "what if I fail? What if I'm unloved? What if I die without meaning?" How quickly did you rush to smother those questions with Netflix, podcasts, productivity hacks, or the dopamine hit of a friend's text? We've built a civilization to outrun the terror of not knowing, yet in doing so, we've become addicts, feverishly injecting certainty like a drug to numb the sublime agony of being human. But what if the real addiction isn't to the screens, or the data, or the rituals? What if it's to the illusion they sell, the lie that life can be solved, fixed, optimized into a series of bullet points? Kierkegaard called anxiety the dizziness of freedom, the price we pay for having choices. Yet you've been taught to treat this dizziness as a glitch, something to eradicate with more apps, more habits, more life hacks. But what if the cure is the poison? Think of the last thing you Googled, the medical symptom you needed to diagnose, the job offer you dissected. For hidden meanings, the ex's new partner you cyberstalked. Each search was a prayer to the God of certainty. Tell me what this means. Tell me I'll survive. But survival isn't the problem anymore. The problem is the existential tax you're paying to live in a prison of your own design, a world stripped of mystery, where every uncertainty is a threat to be neutralized, every unanswered question a grenade with the pin pulled. You've become a slave to the answer, and no one is telling you the cost. What happens to a mind that refuses to tolerate ambiguity? Neurons wired to prioritize confirmation over curiosity. A psyche that would rather embrace delusion than endure the fertile dark of not knowing. You don't have to imagine. You're living it, the insomnia, the chronic indecision, the quiet dread that hums beneath every achievement. The greatest magic trick of the digital age is convincing you that uncertainty is the enemy, while the real predator, the true addiction, stalks you in broad daylight dressed in the benign armor of productivity and self-improvement. But here's the secret your panic won't let you admit. Certainty isn't safety. It's sublimated violence against yourself. Every time you demand a guarantee, you amputate a part of your soul's potential. Art dies in draft mode. Love becomes a transaction. God, if you believe in one, shrinks to a vending machine for blessings. You think you're avoiding pain, but you're only widening the void. The 13th century poet Rumi wrote, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment." When did you last allow yourself to be bewildered? To not have a take, a plan, a backup plan? The clock is ticking. With every click, you're bargaining away your humanity for the illusion of control. But the void persists. It hisses in the silence. Between meetings, laughs in the face of your 5-year plan, waits patiently at the end of every final answer. What if the only way to survive is to stop treating uncertainty as a threat and start recognizing it as the last sacred portal to everything you crave? Meaning, freedom, aliveness? The answer will cost you more than you've ever paid. But it begins with a question you've spent your whole life running from. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are human. A species hardwired for survival in a world that no longer exists. To understand why you claw at certainty like a lifeline, you must first confront the primal wound beneath the addiction, the terror of being a conscious creature in an unconscious universe. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of the psyche we exile because it contradicts our curated self-image. But what if the collective shadow of modernity isn't some repressed vice or violent impulse? What if it's our refusal to admit how profoundly lost we are? Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Yet here you are, outsourcing your soul's questions to Google, substituting spiritual hunger with TikTok gurus, and numbing existential dread with the anesthetic of busyness. The problem isn't the devices, it's the ancient, screaming void they're designed to silence. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming. In 1882, he declared God dead and warned of the coming abyss. Not because he celebrated nihilism, but because he knew humanity would replace divine certainty with something far more sinister, idols of its own making. Man would rather will nothingness than not will at all, he wrote. Your idols wear modern masks, the 5-star rating of your worth, the LinkedIn headline that imprisons your identity, the quantified self-tracking that reduces your heartbeat to data points. You've traded sacred mysteries for secular certainties, and the price is your vitality. But why does it hurt so much? Why does the brain treat ambiguity like a threat? Neurobiologically, you are a prediction machine. Your prefrontal cortex evolved to minimize metabolic surprise, to anticipate predators, seasons, social alliances. Every morsel of certainty triggers a hit of endogenous opioids, a primal reward for solving your environment. But in a world where threats are no longer lions but layoffs, not droughts but breakups, the brain's old algorithms misfire. You check your phone 63 times a day, not because you need to, but because each check is a microdose of "I'm still safe," a ritual to appease the overclocked amygdala. Arthur Schopenhauer pierced this paradox 2 centuries ago. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. You are free to choose, yet enslaved by the need to choose correctly. The 21st century weaponized this tension. Social media platforms exploit your fear of regret by letting you pre-edit your personality. Dating apps turn romance into a Minimax game of optimal matches. Even spirituality becomes a self-help flowchart. 7 steps to enlighten your chakra while maximizing your 401k. The message is clear. Uncertainty is inefficiency. Not knowing is failure. But the deepest cut comes from cultural mythology. The Enlightenment promised reason would liberate us. Yet, as philosopher John Gray argues, it merely replaced religious dogma with the dogma of progress, the belief that all human problems are solvable with enough data. This is the lie you've internalized, that life is a puzzle to complete, not a mystery to inhabit. Aldous Huxley foresaw this in Brave New World, where citizens are pacified not by force, but by the infinite appetite for distraction, your distraction. The conviction that with enough information you can outwit fate. The psychological roots run deeper still. Jean-Paul Sartre coined the term bad faith, the act of lying to oneself to escape the anguish of freedom. Every time you say, "I had no choice," when you quit a dream for a pension or stay in a loveless relationship because it's safer, you commit this existential treason. But here's the twisted genius of the certainty addiction. It reframes your surrender as agency. You chose the spreadsheet. You curated the Instagram perfection. The prison feels like a palace because you built it yourself. Viktor Frankl, Surviving. Auschwitz discovered a startling truth. Those who found meaning in suffering were more resilient than those who clung to optimism. Yet modern culture pathologizes suffering, markets positivity as a moral imperative, and sells mindfulness as a tool to sterilize discomfort. You've been taught that uncertainty is a glitch to be fixed, not the pulse of life itself. But as Zen masters whisper, the obstacle is the path. Your refusal to walk the razor's edge of not knowing doesn't erase the edge, it just makes you bleed faster. Even neuroscience conspires against you. The brain's default mode network, DMN, active when you're not focused on tasks, is the realm of self-referential thought, the what-if spirals, the regrets, the existential queries. MRI studies show that intolerance of uncertainty correlates with hyperactivity in the DMN. In other words, the more you fear the unknown, the more your mind torments itself with stories about the unknown. It's a feedback loop from Hades, and you've been handed a civilization's worth of kindling to keep it burning. The addiction's architecture is diabolically self-reinforcing. Cognitive biases, the illusion of control, confirmation bias, the planning fallacy, trick you into believing you're steering the ship when you're really just rearranging deck chairs. You mistake probability for truth, likelihood for destiny. The weather app says 10% chance of rain, so you abandon the picnic. The doctor says 90% survival odds, so you mourn preemptively. You've become a taxidermist of experience, stuffing life's wildness into the corpse of prediction. But who benefits from this mass self-delusion? Follow the money. A $4.5 trillion tech industry thrives on your fear of uncertainty. Google sells answers. Facebook sells connection. Amazon sells the myth that you can buy your way out of want. The attention economy's most valuable currency isn't your time, it's your surrender to the illusion that certainty is purchasable. As Marxist philosopher Slavoj Žižek quips, we feel free because we lack the very language to articulate our unfreedom. You are caught in a hall of mirrors, each reflection a distorted promise, more knowledge, more control, more safety. But the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard knew the truth. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Remove the dizziness, and you remove the freedom. Yet you keep swallowing the cultural soma, trading your birthright of wonder for the prison of knowability. The question is no longer why you're addicted, but what happens to a world where billions of humans wage war on the very condition that makes them human. You don't notice the collapse at first. It begins in the quiet moments, the hesitation before a spontaneous decision, the itch to check your phone during a sunset, the way you rehearse vulnerability before a conversation like a scripted performance. The addiction to certainty doesn't announce itself with sirens. It metastasizes in the subconscious, rewiring your instincts until even your dreams feel like spreadsheets. Consider the personal apocalypse unfolding silently within you. The atrophy of wonder, your brain, once a wilderness of curiosity, now operates like a bureaucrat, categorizing, labeling, dismissing anything that can't be quantified. A child asks, "Why is the sky blue?" And you reflexively Google Rayleigh scattering instead of marveling. At the question, poetry becomes content. Intuition becomes a data gap. You've forgotten how to dwell in mysteries, so you colonize them with facts, the tyranny of metrics. You measure friendships by response times, self-worth by productivity metrics, love by compatibility algorithms. Dates become SWOT analyses. Grief becomes a processing period on a wellness app. The unmeasurable, the way her laughter dissolves your defenses, the way silence can sometimes be a sacrament, gets discarded as noise. The death of spontaneity. Remember the last time you let a day unfold without a plan? Without tracking steps, calories, or achievements? For most, it triggers low-grade panic, the neurological equivalent of withdrawal. fMRI scans show that chronic planners exhibit diminished activity in the ventral striatum, the brain's reward center for novelty. You've literally unlearned how to enjoy surprise. But the rot runs deeper than individual psyches. Societies built on the cult of certainty inevitably self-cannibalize, cultural paralysis. When a civilization fears the unknown more than injustice, it stops evolving. Political policies prioritize risk management over vision. Art becomes derivative, repackaging nostalgia because true creativity demands venturing into the dark. Silicon Valley peddles disruption, while entrenched systems grow more rigid, fossilized by cost-benefit analyses, erosion of trust. Why believe others when you can fact-check them? Why trust yourself when apps track your sleep, your heart, rate your mood trends? A 2023 study found that people who rely on wearables for health data show less confidence in their bodily signals. You've outsourced intuition to machines, creating a populace that trusts algorithms more than neighbors. The rise of fundamentalism, not just religious, the algorithmic fundamentalism of social media, the wellness dogma of biohackers, the rigid identity politics fueled by fear of ambiguity. Extremism thrives when uncertainty is demonized. It offers the cocaine hit of absolute answers. ISIS recruiters and Silicon Valley gurus use the same playbook. Give us your anxiety and we'll give you a map. Neurologically, the toll is catastrophic. The brain's amygdala, wired to handle acute threats, now fires incessantly under the drip-feed of low-grade uncertainty. Global warming headlines, AI doomsaying, micro-anxieties about lunch choices. Cortisol levels in industrialized nations have risen 300% since the 1980s. The hippocampus, crucial for memory and emotional regulation, shrinks under chronic stress, making you simultaneously more forgetful and more prone to rumination. You're not just losing peace of mind, you're altering the architecture of your consciousness. Cognitive biases conspire to deepen the trap, the illusion of control. You stockpile canned goods for pandemics, overinsure against improbable tragedies, and rehearse conversations that never happen, all while ignoring the slow-motion disaster of a life half-lived, hyperbolic discounting. You'll sacrifice lifelong fulfillment for the cheap high of a cleared inbox, choosing the certainty of done over the messy joy of alive. Normalcy bias. As ecosystems collapse and AI upends reality, you fixate on getting back to normal, a myth as dangerous as the Titanic's band playing on. Philosophically, you've entered Huxley's nightmare, a world where suffering isn't caused by pain, but by the obsession to avoid it. The Stoics warned that expecting life to be predictable is the root of madness. Yet here you are, matter by the minute, filtering existence through apps designed to eliminate chance. Even religion, once a vessel for wrestling with the infinite, gets reduced to manifestation rituals and prosperity gospels, certainty in spiritual drag. The cruelest twist. Your pursuit of certainty creates the very chaos you fear. Overmanaged children rebel explosively, micromanaged employees sabotage projects. Relationships policed for red flags suffocate under surveillance. By trying to eliminate risk, you become a magnet for disaster, like a man so fixated on avoiding snake bites he walks into a lion's den. You're living the paradox Heidegger identified, the most thought-provoking thing in our thought-provoking. Time is that we are still not thinking, not really. Your mental spreadsheet jockeys, mistaking calculation for cognition. True thinking, the kind that dances with doubt, flirts with the ineffable, has become a taboo act like smoking in a neonatal ward. The clock is ticking. With each click, each optimization, each silent bargain with the god of predictability, you're trading your humanity for a lie. The lie that safety is possible. The lie that control is freedom. The lie that a fully known life is worth living. But beneath the algorithms and anxiety, something wild still stirs. A memory, a dream. The part of you that once stared at stars and wondered, instead of calculating their distance. It's not dead. Yet. The first act of rebellion is not a grand gesture. It begins in the quiet. A refusal to check your phone during a sleepless night. A decision to leave a question unanswered. A breath held at the edge of a cliff, resisting the urge to calculate. The fall. To break free from certainty's chokehold, you must do the unthinkable. Fall in love with the unknown. History's greatest emancipators, artists, mystics, rebels, understood this. Van Gogh painted starry skies not as they were, but as they felt, surrendering to the terrible need for the infinite. Frida Kahlo turned chronic pain into surrealist prophecy, declaring, "I am my own muse." Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz found freedom not in hoping for liberation, but in choosing meaning amid unthinkable suffering. Their power lay not in control, but in a radical receptivity to the unpredictable. Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of fate, not passive acceptance, but a fiery embrace of life's inherent chaos. Your rebellion begins here. Step 1. Cultivate strategic uncertainty. The brain is a pattern-seeking missile. To rewire it, you must weaponize randomness. Start small. Delete your weather app for a week. Feel rain without forecasting it. Drive without GPS. Let wrong turns become adventures. Ask a stranger a question that has no answer. What does longing feel like in your body? These acts are neurological mutiny. fMRI studies show that exposure to controlled uncertainty boosts dopamine and neuroplasticity, the same sparks that ignite creativity. The 18th century flaneurs of Paris mastered this, wandering the city, without purpose to be drunk on the real. Follow their lead. Let your mind become a compass without a north, discovering magnetism in the drift. Step 2. Practice the anti-plan society worships the plan, the career ladder, the 5-year goal, the optimized morning routine. But what if you inverted the paradigm? Schedule unscripted hours, where you follow whims, not agendas. Replace smart goals with wild ones. What if I let go? Write a resignation letter to your inner bureaucrat. Effective immediately, I will no longer prioritize efficiency over aliveness. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, finding beauty in impermanence, offers a blueprint. A cracked teacup, a crumbling wall, a life uncurated. When poet Basho wrote, "Every day is a journey, and the journey itself is home," he wasn't romanticizing chaos. He was mapping liberation. Step 3. Relearn the art of not knowing children. Our geniuses at this. They ask why, not to get answers, but to prolong the mystery. To reclaim this, start a certainty detox journal. Each time you feel the itch to Google, fact-check, or predict, write the question down, then sit with it for 24 hours. Observe how the itch transforms into revelation. Rewrite your relationship with time. Stop asking, "What's next?" Start asking, "What's here?" Engage in philosophical eavesdropping. In cafes, on buses, listen to conversations not to judge or compare, but to wonder, what vast unspoken truths pulse beneath their words? The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, meditating on worst-case scenarios to prove they could endure them. Take this further. Meditate on no-case scenarios. What if you never achieve your dream, never find the one, never resolve your parents' approval? Let the groundlessness terrify you until it doesn't. Step 4. Reclaim the unmeasurable. Every metric is a cage. When you measure your worth by likes, salary, or productivity, you auction your soul to the lowest bidder. Fight back. Create art solely to destroy it. Paint a canvas and burn it. Write a poem and bury it. Relearn creation without validation. Track your life in moments of unguarded laughter instead of steps. Host a funeral for outcomes. Gather friends, light candles, and eulogize the goals you'll never reach. Mourn them. Then dance in the graveyard of abandoned plans. The Dadaists of the 1920s did this, creating absurd, purposeless art to protest a world drunk on reason. Their manifesto declared, Dada means nothing. In that nothingness, they found everything. Step 5. Build uncertainty. Alliances. Rebellion is contagious but dangerous to attempt alone. Forge underground networks. Join or create a vulnerability circle where members share fears without solutions. The only rule, no advice allowed. Partner. With a chaos buddy who texts you random challenges, send a risky text. Quit a meeting midway. Eat dessert first. Study the via negativa of mystics, the path of unlearning. As Meister Eckhart preached, the eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. Remove the cataracts of certainty, and the divine becomes the daily. Step 6. Surrender to creative destruction. The final frontier is the self you've constructed, the resume, the persona, the story of who you should be. Set it on fire. Adopt a scorched earth mindset. Quit the job that's suffocating you. Leave the relationship that's a mutual certainty pact. Burn the life plan. Practice identity fasting. For one day a month, act contrary to every label you cling to. CEO, introvert, realist. Write your epitaph not as a list of achievements, but as a series of open questions. Did she love well? Did he risk enough? What songs did they leave unsung? Rumi wrote, You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? The answer, because crawling feels safer. But safety is the lie that sold you the cage. True freedom begins when you stop worshiping the ground and remember, you were meant to fly into the storm, not avoid it. This rebellion won't be clean. It will cost you relationships, comfort, the smug satisfaction of being on track. But track toward what? A prize you never chose? A finish line that moves each time you near it? The secret, no productivity guru will tell you, certainty is the track. Jump the rails. The revolution starts not with a manifesto, but with a whisper, your own voice, long silenced by the noise of answers, finally asking, what if I don't want to know? Here it is, the truth that changes everything. You are not here to solve the mystery. You are the mystery. The universe does not whisper answers. It hums with questions, each one a thread in the tapestry you've spent your life trying to unravel. But what if the unraveling is the design? What if your addiction to certainty was never about safety? It was a refusal to accept the most profound invitation of existence, to become an active participant in the unknowable. This is the Copernican shift. You've spent centuries of collective conditioning believing life orbits around control, but the center does not hold. It never did. The stars are not fixed points, they're explosions. Love is not a contract, it's a wildfire. Your mind is not a fortress, it's a murmuration of starlings, shape-shifting in the winds of chaos. The ultimate truth is this: certainty was the delusion. Uncertainty is the only reality. Heidegger glimpsed it when he wrote of Gelassenheit, releasement, the act of letting beings be. The Taoists called it Wu Wei, action through non-action. Quantum physics proves it. At subatomic levels, particles exist as probabilities until observed. You, too, are both particle and wave, a being defined not by your résumé, but by your potential. Every moment you spend trying to collapse your future into a spreadsheet is a betrayal of your quantum soul. But here's the paradox that will set you free. The more fully you surrender to not knowing, the more power you wield. History's pivotal moments, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the invention of the Internet, every revolution that mattered, were born not from plans but from cracks in the status quo. Chaos isn't the enemy of order, it's the womb. As the Hopi prophecy says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Not as conquerors of the unknown, but as its collaborators. This is why the existentialists haunt you. Camus insisted, life's absurdity isn't a flaw, it's the premise. Sisyphus, eternally pushing his boulder, becomes superior to his fate the moment he accepts the rock's weight as his purpose. Your boulder is the illusion of control. Your superiority begins when you stop praying for level ground and start dancing with the incline. Neuroscience now confirms what mystics knew. The brain's greatest leaps occur in liminal states, those threshold moments between sleep and wakefulness. Between known and unknown, EEG scans show surges of gamma waves during spontaneous insight, the same waves observed in Tibetan monks mid-meditation. Your addiction to certainty has been starving your mind of its native food, the fertile dark where breakthroughs breed. But the ultimate truth cuts deeper still. Your fear of uncertainty isn't personal, it's cosmological. You are stardust that became flesh, matter that learned to ask, why? In you, the universe gazes upon itself, aching to comprehend its own existence. This is the tragic comedy. The cosmos birthed a creature smart enough to ask existential questions, but not wise enough to answer them. Your entire civilization is a Rube Goldberg machine built to avoid admitting one truth. We don't know what we're doing here, and that's the point. The moment you stop fleeing this truth, you align with the primeval pulse of life itself. Forests don't spreadsheet their growth. Oceans don't hedge against tsunamis. A dying star doesn't rage against its fate. It explodes into a supernova, scattering elements that will become new worlds. Your resistance to uncertainty isn't rational. It's a cosmic rebellion against your own nature. The Japanese practice kintsugi, mending broken pottery with gold, teaches that damage is not something to hide, but proof of survival. Apply this to your psyche. Every crack where certainty failed is a vein of gold, a testament to your capacity to endure the unendurable. Your anxiety about the future, your midnight terrors, your heartbreaks, they're not flaws. They're the art of your becoming. Now the final veil lifts. All spiritual traditions, stripped of dogma, converge here. Christianity's "Be still and know that I am God" is an invitation to stop doing and start being. Buddhism's "Don't cling to the raft after crossing the river" warns against mistaking tools for truths. The Kabbalah's Ein Sof, the infinite, reminds us that naming God limits him. You've been offered maps when what you needed was the wilderness. The rebellion was never about destroying systems, but about dismantling the lie that life can be systematized. The ultimate truth is this: you are most alive when you stop trying to survive. When you release the death grip on outcomes, you don't fall into chaos. You ascend into partnership with it. Entrepreneurs call it pivoting. Poets call it inspiration. Lovers call it surrender. All are dialects of the same truth. Certainty is death. Uncertainty is oxygen. So where does this leave you? At the edge of a civilization addicted to answers. The edge of a self you thought you knew. The edge of what Rilke called the land that is nowhere, that is within. You have two choices. Step back. Rebuild the prison. Lose yourself. In the comfortable coma of Netflix and 5-year plans. Leap. If you leap, here's what awaits. The end of imposter syndrome. When you stop pretending to have answers, you can finally inhabit your questions. The birth of authentic power. Like water, you'll flow where logic can't go, through cracks, over walls, into places rigid structures crumble. The return to wonder. The sky isn't blue because of Rayleigh scattering. It's blue because the universe is a painter, and you're here to marvel. This is not transcendence, it's descendance. A homecoming to the raw, unedited version of existence, to the child who once ate rain and believed in monsters under the bed, to the ancestral fires where stories weren't facts, but living things. The 21st century's grand irony: we built AI to outthink us, only to discover that not thinking, the wild, intuitive, unoptimized kind, is our salvation. The machines can have the answers. We'll take the mysteries, so let the algorithms panic. Let the dataists quantify their souls. Let the fearful build higher walls. You'll be the one dancing in the storm, head thrown back, laughing at the lightning. You'll be the parent who tells their child, "I don't know why we're here, let's find out." You'll be the lover who whispers, "I can't promise forever, but I can promise now." The ultimate truth is not a revelation, it's a reclamation. You were never meant to navigate. You were meant to sail off the map.